It is with no shortage of amusement that I dictate this record. The Council of Exploration, in its endless quest for novelty, has once again dispatched me to the edge of irrelevance. Your planet, Earth, a sphere of mud, water, and oxygen cluttered with bipedal creatures who fashion communication out of yellow faces and who poison their bodies with gas station sandwiches. A civilization so backward that they confuse entertainment with watching strangers argue inside illuminated boxes they call reality television. I am, to be candid, insulted. My intellect deserves the deciphering of nebular anomalies, not the cataloging of mammals that willingly microwave burritos at 3 in the morning. Still, orders are orders, and when one is charged to observe a species labeled primitive, one carries out the task with dignity, even if the subject itself reeks of indignity. My crew humored me with reports as we descended through the planet's thick atmosphere. 30% of their digital bandwidth dedicated to videos of felines, inexplicably adored. Cats, small predators reduced to pets, yet worshipped across glowing networks as though their every leap into cardboard boxes were a revelation. Such obsessions are beneath comprehension. My companions found this data charming. I found it damning. Our mission parameters were simple. Acquire a live specimen from a remote region, conduct neurosynaptic analysis, record weaknesses, and confirm what the Empire already suspects, that this world can be conquered with less effort than it takes to fasten a boot clasp. My team selected a jungle, a sweltering tangle of humidity and insects, an environment hostile enough to strip away distractions, but not so hostile as to jeopardize containment. Our scanners identified a human alone beside a riverbank, seated before fire and consuming some sort of charred meat impaled on sticks. Solitary, quiet, mid-30s by their aging metrics. His heartbeat steady, his posture unassuming. A perfect candidate, docile, unaware, irrelevant. I made the decision swiftly. Our stasis beam descended in a column of blue light, wrapping him like a specimen in amber. He did not resist, nor even flinch. His body froze in paralysis while his consciousness dimmed. My crew congratulated themselves for efficiency, though I refrained from clapping. Efficiency in abducting primitives hardly warrants applause. Still, the moment satisfied our schedule. We hauled him aboard, placed him within the containment cradle, and initiated transport to orbit. I dictated early notes with characteristic flair. Subject male, physically average, perhaps even frail. His garments crude fabric, his tools limited to knives and flame. No visible augmentations, no cybernetics, no advanced weaponry. He is as threatening as a boiled vegetable. The biologist chuckled. The technician adjusted parameters with one hand while chewing something sticky called gum, which he insisted was inspired by humans. Our mood was buoyant, almost celebratory. After all, the Empire had conquered far greater civilizations. This mission was an errand, not a challenge. Yet I must confess, even then, something unsettled me. The humans' eyes, though closed, twitched beneath their lids with a rhythm not unlike calculation. Perhaps coincidence, perhaps nothing more than a primitive dream. And yet I stared longer than necessary, unwilling to admit curiosity. Arrogance forbade me from considering danger. Arrogance whispered that I was the apex, and he the insect beneath glass. We prepared the laboratory for the first scans. The stasis cradle hummed, blue light shifting into pulses that mapped neural activity. I narrated with detached sarcasm. Observe, the cerebral cortex is active but unimpressive. Notice the lack of secondary lobes, the reliance on biochemical trickery rather than structured augmentation. One must admire how nature sometimes stumbles into adequacy without design. The technician laughed. I basked in the performance. Still, the subject's heart rate did not spike. His breathing remained unhurried. Even paralyzed, he projected a composure unsuited to prey. I dismissed it as biological quirk, perhaps an overactive endocrine regulator. Yet, deep within, I noted the inconsistency. Humans, by every record, are loud, erratic, panicked creatures. They shriek when startled, faint when frightened, collapse when pressed. This one was still, as though the jungle had taught him patience. During transport, I dictated again for the record. In truth, Earth is the Empire's easiest conquest yet. Their armies waste resources on spectacle. They design vehicles powered by flammable liquid distilled from fossils, and they wage wars in which uniforms are adorned with colored patches. A species addicted to symbolism cannot withstand true precision. Their leaders squabble publicly, their citizens mock authority openly, their so-called heroes are actors on screens. If this planet survives another century unaided, it will be through accident, not design. I admit, I enjoyed the sound of my own superiority. My arrogance flowed smoother than any river. I imagined the council nodding in approval, already preparing to add Earth to the archives of conquered worlds. What resistance could possibly emerge from a species that invented something called Florida Man and allowed it to thrive? We reached orbit without incident. The cradle secured, the specimen contained, my crew jubilant. I concluded my report with flourish. This human represents the wilderness mocked by galactic armies. They will enter Earth's forests, and they will find nothing but primitive obstacles. I paused, savoring the cadence, then shut off the recorder. The human shifted slightly in the cradle. My crew assumed it to be reflex. I was not so certain. His lips twitched upward, almost a smile. Surely a meaningless spasm. Surely nothing more. And yet, as I looked upon him, a sliver of unease pierced the fortress of my arrogance. For just an instant, it felt as though he knew. I dismissed the thought. My empire does not tremble before campfires. We do not fear duct tape or sarcasm or creatures who worship cats. He was a specimen, a number in a log, nothing more. And yet, as the stasis cradle hummed louder, I leaned closer than necessary, studying his still face. My quills prickled with a question I refused to ask aloud. What if the wilderness we mocked was not weakness but camouflage? The question lodged itself in my mind like a thorn. I ignored it, of course. I am no fool, and I will not give paranoia the dignity of voice. Still, I ended my log with words I had not planned to say. Specimen secured. Mission proceeding. No resistance expected for now. And with that, the first fracture of my certainty appeared, small, almost invisible, yet destined to widen. When the human awoke, it should have been a moment of triumph. Our stasis beams are infallible, tested against predators that chew through steel and philosophers who bend thought itself into weapons. No creature rouses early. No creature breaches the paralysis field. Yet this man's eyelids fluttered open before calibration was complete, and worse, his expression was calm, deliberate. His gaze did not wander or flail like other lesser minds dragged suddenly into foreign surroundings. He simply looked at us, one by one, as though counting pieces on a board already memorized. I braced for the scream. I rehearsed in my head the clinical note I would make. Specimen vocal cords overstrained, primitive panic reaction. But the sound never came. Instead, he exhaled a slow breath, then smiled again, that same subtle curve of lips I had dismissed as muscular noise earlier. His eyes tracked each of us with unnerving steadiness. "You're the pilot," he said, nodding at Keth, who stood rigid at the console. "You're the scientist," he added, flicking his chin toward our biologist. His gaze then landed on me. "And you're the one who thinks he's in charge." The team froze. I prepared a reprimand, but none left my mouth. My throat had dried in ways it had never done before. I am trained to record, not to react, yet here was a supposedly primitive creature identifying our roles without hesitation. Protocol demanded I dismiss it as coincidence, but protocol I felt was slipping. I forced formality back into my voice. "Specimen, remain silent. You are undergoing examination." He tilted his head slightly. "Examination," he repeated, as though testing the word. "You really ought to work on your bedside manner." His tone carried amusement, not fear, and amusement in captivity is more threatening than rage. Rage can be controlled. Amusement suggests knowledge of outcome. I ordered the restraints tightened. Energy beams glowed brighter around him, cocooning flesh and bone. He should not have been able to twitch a finger. Yet his composure did not falter. He studied the humming devices and remarked, "That's sloppy wiring on the emitter array." I noticed it during the ride-up. My quills stiffened. No specimen had ever admitted awareness in transit. Our paralysis field is designed to suppress memory and sensory input. Yet this human described details as though he had been an observer, not a prisoner. My colleagues shifted uneasily, though they tried to mask it. I spoke sharply to cut through their doubts. "Your words are nonsense, human. Remain docile, or you'll be sedated." He grinned wider. "Already am, are not?" The tension in the chamber thickened. Our instruments hummed nervously, almost mocking my authority. I returned to scientific procedure, demanding data. Brain scans initiated. Neural patterns flared across displays in convoluted waves, overlapping, cascading in shapes we had no chart for. My assistant muttered, "This cannot be right." I silenced him with a glare. But even I saw the truth. The readings exceeded normal human capacity. This man's brain was not operating in the sluggish rhythms of a species. It pulsed with acceleration, with structure too intricate for our models. The human watched us observing. He seemed to enjoy our discomfort. Then he said, "You're wondering if the machine is broken. It isn't." Every word from his lips was a strike against certainty. I tried to maintain arrogance, crafting sarcastic notes to soothe myself. Specimen exhibits delusional confidence, believes himself knowledgeable. But my voice, even to my own ears, sounded hollow. He continued casually, "Let me guess, next you'll test reflexes, then probe memory. Won't get much from that. I was awake during most of your fiddling." The biologist whispered, "How does he know our procedure?" The human shrugged, as though hearing him. "It's not hard to guess. You've got the look of scientists, hungry eyes, twitching fingers, pretending you're in control." His gaze settled back on me. "But you're different. You're scared already, trying not to show it." Scared. The word should not apply to me. Fear is for subjects, not analysts. Yet my chest tightened. I wanted to deny it, to bark laughter. But instead, I recorded more data, desperate to bury the disquiet. He changed tactics, then, speaking in riddles. "You know, I always wondered if this would happen. Aliens show up, poke around, try to figure us out. I pictured gray skin, big eyes, maybe a tractor beam. And here you are, just as cliché as the stories." His levity was infuriating. Humor at a time like this. "Humans are absurd," I muttered. But beneath my contempt, I noted something sharper. He was dictating tone. We were reacting to him. He leaned back against the glowing field and asked conversationally, "So tell me, are you more Star Trek or X-Files?" The terms meant nothing. My assistants exchanged looks. I demanded he explain, but he only chuckled softly. "Don't worry, you'll figure it out." Our scientist attempted to stabilize the situation by beginning memory extraction. Probes extended, scanning deeper into his neural pathways. The display lit up violently, throwing error codes. His patterns resisted. They shifted to mimic interference, blinding the sensors. "Impossibly abnormal," the biologist whispered. The human, still calm, answered, "Not abnormal. Just trained." That word, trained. It landed heavier than any insult. He was not merely adapting. He was prepared. I forced laughter to regain authority. "You claim training? Your species trains to sit in chairs and watch glowing rectangles. You train to consume sugar water. What possible training?" "I've worked in counterintelligence," he interrupted, voice low but clear. "Special forces before that. Now security testing. I was running exercises when you grabbed me." The silence following his admission was unbearable. My team looked at me, awaiting dismissal of his claim, but no words formed. My confidence cracked like brittle shell. He went on with chilling nonchalance. "I've already sent a message. By now they'll know." Alarms blared. Systems flickered. My heart clutched as red lights washed across consoles. The human did not flinch. He merely smirked, eyes glinting with private satisfaction. "You really should check your containment field seals," he murmured. We scrambled, issuing commands, scanning panels, searching for faults. He simply watched, serene, as though he had orchestrated the moment. I fought to keep composure, to declare it coincidence, yet doubt gnawed deeper. Still, protocol demanded order. I ended the session abruptly, commanding shutdown of probes. My log entry rang hollow. Specimen exhibits abnormal cognition. Investigation continues. I wanted to believe my own report, but the man's final whisper lingered louder than alarms. You think I'm your subject. You'll learn I'm not. And for the first time, I felt my arrogance shrinking into something smaller, something colder. The chamber smelled of ozone and humiliation. I tried to convince myself the alarms were coincidence, a routine fluctuation of systems far from the Empire's core, yet the timing aligned too perfectly with his words. The human sat in our field as though it were a chair designed for his comfort. His posture suggested not captivity, but negotiation, as if he were waiting for us to recognize we were the ones restrained. We resumed testing because to stop would be to admit fear. Probes descended again, luminous threads brushing against his skull, mapping neurons with precision finer than a whisper. The scans pulsed across the monitors, sprawling into shapes I had never seen, labyrinths of thought folding inward and outward in dizzying spirals. I had expected sluggish simplicity. Instead, the machine strained to keep pace. One of my subordinates muttered, "It looks like strategy." I silenced him, but he was correct. The patterns resembled tactical matrices, the kind our generals sketch before launching campaigns. Human thoughts were not random sparks, but formations, units aligning, retreating, flanking. It was as though his mind perpetually waged war. I documented with feigned detachment. Specimen exhibits irregular neural architecture. Possible defect. Yet even as I said it, my quills betrayed unease. Defects do not anticipate camera placement. Defects do not trigger alarms with words alone. The human broke my thoughts with casual laughter. You're trying too hard. Relax. I know where all your little eyes are hidden. One above the panel. Two behind the vent. Another just under your console. Not very subtle. I stared at him. He had never left the platform. He had not moved beyond the radius of the field. Yet he listed the devices with accuracy no guess could provide. My pilot shifted uncomfortably, adjusting the controls as though to hide the very sensors already revealed. "Ow!" I demanded, voice sharper than intended. He shrugged. "Same way I know the difference between your security and your scientist. People show themselves. Technology, too. You just have to know how to look." His words carried no boast, only fact. It was not a claim of superiority, but a reminder that superiority had already been assumed. We pressed further, launching psychological tests. Images flickered before his eyes. Abstract patterns, landscapes of his planet, simulations designed to trigger instinctive responses. He answered none directly. Instead, he recited fragments of human culture. When shown a battlefield, he quoted, "War is hell." When presented with an image of his planet's oceans, he murmured lines from what he called a movie about sharks and beaches. Our instruments flagged confusion, but the confusion was ours. What purpose do these riddles serve? I demanded. He smiled faintly. "Keeps you off balance." And it did. My assistant misinterpreted the phrase as literal balance and adjusted gravity levels by mistake. The chamber tilted. Consoles sparked. The human chuckled softly, shaking his head as if we were children fumbling with tools. He then spoke of duct tape again, the gray strip he had carried. "You laughed at it," he said, "but duct tape fixes everything, holds things together when they should fall apart. You'd be surprised how often wars are won with tape instead of bullets." I tried to dismiss the comment as nonsense, yet unease coiled deeper. Why did his metaphors sting like warnings? We continued probing. Memory extractions began. Scenes from his life spilled across the screens. Dense forests, searing deserts, structures built for conflict. He moved with precision, leading squads, dismantling obstacles, vanishing into terrain. He spoke in clipped commands, calm under fire. My breath caught as realization bloomed. This was no common human. He had trained for wilderness, for chaos, for deception. He had worn the identity of soldier as naturally as skin. I whispered before I could stop myself. Special forces. His eyes flicked toward me. Recognition gleamed. You do learn fast. My team erupted with questions, debating probability, demanding verification. I silenced them with a gesture, though my own thoughts howled. The Empire had dismissed Earth's armies as ceremonial, little more than parades of uniforms. Yet here was evidence of something sharper, hidden beneath spectacle. The human leaned forward as far as the field allowed. You know what I do now? Security testing. Corporations, governments, whoever needs their defenses probed. They asked me to find cracks. I always find them. His smile returned, that unsettling crescent of certainty. And guess what? I found yours too. The lights above us dimmed in eerie unison, then flared back, then dimmed again. I barked at the crew to stabilize systems, but no explanation satisfied. Only his words remained. You already feel it, he said softly. That itch in the back of your mind. The part whispering you're not the one in control anymore. My arrogance faltered completely. I wanted to reassert dominance, but every command sounded like begging disguised as authority. I demanded he clarify what message he had sent earlier, the one he claimed would reveal us to his world. He tilted his head. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. That's the thing about people like me. You never know what's real until it's too late. I felt the chamber shrink. His calm unsettled me more than any weapon. A violent subject I could contain. But this quiet confidence was a contagion seeping through every console, infecting every crew member. Still, I clung to procedure. Specimen, I announced. Your claims lack evidence. You attempt intimidation, but intimidation is meaningless against the Empire. He only replied, if you say so. The scans reached climax, then crashed entirely, monitors blanking into static. My staff scrambled. One cursed under breath. The human closed his eyes as though resting after exertion. When he opened them again, he whispered, now you're blind. And indeed, our instruments returned no readings. His neural activity vanished from display, though he remained seated before us. Our technology insisted he was gone, non-existent, a ghost. Yet his smirk proved otherwise. This isn't possible, one assistant muttered. Possible, the human corrected gently. Just inconvenient for you. I stared at him, all sarcasm drained, arrogance stripped raw. He was not prey. He was a predator disguised in civilian skin, hiding among his species, waiting for hunters like us. He leaned back, eyes half-lidded, utterly relaxed. I've already sent a message, he repeated. Your coordinates, your weaknesses. By now, they're listening. The chamber filled with silence, so heavy it pressed against my chest. Even the hum of engines seemed afraid. I ended the session not with authority, but desperation. My final note hollow on my recorder. Specimen exhibits unprecedented anomalies. Continued observation required. But privately, I wrote something else. Something I could not share aloud. We are the observed. The vessel trembled as though the jungle itself had reached up and seized it. Consoles sputtered, lights dimmed, and the air thickened with the scent of fear. My crew scrambled in all directions, each pretending expertise, each failing to mass panic. Only the human remained composed. He sat inside the humming restraints with the posture of a man enjoying a campfire, shoulders loose, eyes bright, lips curled into that maddening half-smile. This shouldn't be happening, hissed Keth, slamming commands into the navigation grid. We've lost synchronization with the core. The human answered for me. You didn't lose it. I took it. My voice cracked as I snapped. Impossible. Yet the word carried no conviction. Even I no longer believed in our superiority. He leaned forward slightly, eyes catching the glow of flickering panels. You scanned me, prodded me, thought I was just a primitive brain to map. What you didn't realize is your beam runs both ways. You pulled my patterns, but I pulled yours too. His words sliced deeper than weapons. To map our systems through the same instruments designed to dominate him. It was unthinkable, yet the evidence flared across every failing display. Alarms shrieked. Security drones attempted to activate, but froze mid-motion, eyes dark. My biologist stammered. They're not responding. The human spoke gently, almost kindly. I told you. I do security testing. Your firewalls were quaint. Your artificial intelligence? Predictable. I borrowed it. Predictable. Borrowed. He described disarming us as if discussing borrowed tools at a campsite. The arrogance of our empire, once a mountain, now felt like sand beneath a tide. I clung to procedure. Specimen, you will cease interference immediately. He chuckled softly. Specimen, that's cute, but I'm not the one being studied anymore. You are. My words died. Around me, my team glanced in every direction but mine. Authority had evaporated like mist. The ship lurched, doors sealing one by one. Hallways echoed with metallic clangs as barriers locked into place. My crew was separated, voices calling through comms before cutting to static. I was left with him, alone in the chamber that no longer felt ours. You've isolated us, I whispered. Correct, he said. Your AI did most of the work. I just gave it different instructions. His composure was unbearable. No predator should look so relaxed. Predators roar, thrash, intimidate. He merely smiled. You asked earlier what message I sent, he continued. The answer's simple. I didn't need to send much. Just proof you exist. Just coordinates. Earth's been listening longer than you think. I forced myself to laugh, though it sounded brittle. Your planet has no fleet, no reach, no capacity. Maybe not flashy fleets, he interrupted, but defenses? Monitors? Let's just say Earth isn't as blind as you hoped. We've been patient, letting you underestimate us. Playing dumb is the oldest trick in warfare. Patience. Playing dumb. The phrases rang louder than alarms. Had Earth truly disguised itself so thoroughly that even the Empire's analysts failed to see? My chest tightened with the possibility. The ship's gravity flickered, briefly suspending us before slamming us down again. My bones rattled. The human barely moved, rolling with the shift as if accustomed to turbulence. He looked at me with calm pity. See, that's the difference. You fight wars loudly. We fight them quietly. You expected an easy conquest. Instead, you've handed your blueprints to the very species you mocked. Blueprints. I imagined our schematics unraveling under human scrutiny, every vulnerability cataloged by minds trained not just to survive, but to dismantle threats piece by piece. I whispered, what will your kind do with this knowledge? He tilted his head. What do you think? We'll prepare. We'll adapt. And next time, when you come with armies instead of research crews, we'll be ready. Next time, the words landed like a prophecy. I tried to stand taller, to salvage dignity. Our empire is vast. You cannot frighten us with shadows and duct tape. His grin sharpened. Funny you mentioned duct tape. Do you know why we love it? Because it's not elegant. It's not sophisticated, but works. Humans survive not by being perfect, but by making do. We turn scraps into weapons, disasters into training, mistakes into lessons. You'll never understand how dangerous that is. Every sentence tightened the vice around my chest. He was right. We did not understand. Our empire worships precision, efficiency, order. Humanity worships none of these, yet thrives anyway. That makes them unpredictable. That makes them lethal. Another alarm screeched, this one deep and final. Core instability. My instruments flashed warnings, but I barely registered them. My gaze remained fixed on the human. He sat unflinching, as though chaos bent around him instead of through him. He spoke once more, softly enough that the words etched into me like scars. We thought Florida Man was an isolated case. He is not. I almost laughed, though terror strangled it. I did not know the reference, but the tone conveyed truth. This man was not anomaly, but symptom. His kind, chaotic, cunning, irreverent, was common among them. The chamber's lights sputtered to darkness, then pulsed once in crimson. My crew was gone. Systems lay silent. And in the quiet, I realized what had shifted most. Not the ship, but me. My arrogance had been dismantled, stripped piece by a being I had labeled primitive. I thought of cats, of burritos, of yellow faces humans used to express joy. I thought of duct tape. These absurdities had been the mask concealing something vast beneath. We mistook comedy for weakness, ritual for incompetence, distraction for incapacity. We were wrong. I turned my recorder on, voice trembling. Final log. Humanity is not prey. They are camouflage. They are laughter hiding knives, clumsiness masking calculation. We underestimated their wilderness, their chaos, their soldiers. The human watched silently, letting me unravel. I whispered, "We came as conquerors." He finished the thought for me. "And you leave as witnesses." My quills flattened against my skull. He was right. We would leave, if the ship survived at all. But even if we did, nothing of the Empire's arrogance would remain intact. Earth was no longer a curiosity. It was a threat. The hum of systems returned, faint but steady. He released control deliberately, proof that survival was granted, not seized. I realized then that mercy, too, could be a weapon. I closed the log with words I never thought I would record. We feared their weapons. Now we fear their minds. And as the chamber doors hissed open at his unspoken command, I saw the smile again. The quiet, devastating smile of a man who had won without lifting a hand.